Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. We are here with Ian from Sleeping Village. We're really excited to have him here today because he's got a lot of different aspects of his career. He works in reviewing. He's got a label going on. So there's a lot of different topics we're going to be touching on today. But first, I just want to say thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be back on the kind of reinvented version. I appreciate it.
The renewed, the rebuilt, the redone.
From the ground up.
From the ground up, that's right. Corey's better.
Yeah. So we have a lot of, since we are the rebuilt, renewed, renamed from the ground up version, we do have a lot of new listeners who may not know who you are, who haven't heard of you, who don't know what you do. So in like a nutshell, what is the short version of what you do? Let everybody know.
Yeah, there is no master plan. There's no overall kind of idea of what I do necessarily. I started out reviewing on Instagram in 2018, and it's just kind of continued from there, going from like really short reviews on Instagram to really long reviews on my site. And since then, we brought in a ton of writers. We do track premieres. We do release day roundups. I've got a label. And I also do writing services for bands. That's kind of the long and the short of it.
Well, now, and I want to point out something too, though, is that you also have been doing this for what now, 3-4 years?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Cool. And you started off, unless my memory is failing me, as an Instagram blog prior to the blog, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just a hobby. I didn't want to be invested in any way, shape, or form. So I was just throwing stuff up on Instagram. And then I think once I hit like 1,000 followers or something, I was like, it's worth the $100 to start a site and actually start getting more into the actual reviewing aspect. Longer reviews, having other people write reviews, track premieres, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, one thing I noticed too, though, is even when you were doing the Instagram reviews, you were still pretty damn detailed. Like when you
is it just me, or did
Instagram
we lose Curtis?
More blog-oriented stuff, or it just came natural? Oh, am I gone?
You're back.
You're back now. You were gone, but now you're back.
Okay, now I'm back. Okay, that's weird. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too long. Did you get my last question, Ian, or no?
Yeah, so when I was starting on Instagram, those reviews actually took just as long as my current reviews take to write, even though they're like 500 words shorter, just because I would have to trim something down, make sure I was using exactly the same words. And then it was always a struggle because I'd get to the end and then I wouldn't have room for hashtags, or I wouldn't have room character count to tag the bands or something. But yeah, the goal has always been super descriptive, give like a really good take, a personal take on why I like something, instead of just saying it's a good band because they have good riffs. I want to give lots of detail.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to go into pitching next. So
actually, I had a follow-up on that one.
Fine.
So, I have a follow. You do this to me all the time. Now it's my turn with my follow-ups.
Fine.
I'm going Southern on you here.
Fine.
No, so I just started in writing reviews, and I know we have specific guidelines where I work. But what do you think is a good length for a review before you start to lose people? Because for us, it's like 500 to 700 words for our reviews is like where we try to keep it. Anything below 1,000, because if you start to get over 1,000, we start to lose people. But what about your experience with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it really depends on the specific release. I think some releases just lend themselves to a longer review. We've only gone over 1,000 words, like maybe 3 or 4 times. And it's usually for like a really well-known album where we can get into the history, we can get into the past records. I'd say I'm personally landing around 700 or 800 words in order to give like a really solid narrative, give a good intro and conclusion that kind of introduces the music in terms of something other than what you might just find in a press kit, my experience with it, or how it relates to the genre at large. And then that seems to be a good length. Honestly, some
Mhm.
people seem totally happy just to read the little blurb we put on Instagram, just the excerpt, and that's their exposure to the review, and they're fine with it. But then again, we have some people that write like a 300-word review just because that's maybe it was an EP or something like that, and that seems to go over well. We don't have a formula, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess we also have we have two categories that people tend to land in, and the EPs do usually get about 300 to 500, and then the other ones, it's like 500 to 800 is about the range. So I was just curious what and it sounds like you have the same or similar.
As a reader, just as a comment, I think some sites do too long and some do too. I think there's always like a happy medium that you can get. But sometimes some releases don't really need a long review, you know what I mean? But some sites will do like a long review anyway. And I think it can get a bit overkill at times with sort of some of those sites, because I've seen ones where it's been like 3-4 page long reviews. And it's like, I don't need this. You know what I mean?
I saw one the other day that was like 1,500 words.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not going to read all this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times it gets too personal with the writer and stuff like that. But Ian's reviews are usually, I think, about the right length. They're not too long, they're not too short, but they're in depth at the same time, which I really like. With Metal Injection, though, I just as a comment before we get into pitching, as my own thought, I think with them they have to have a shorter thing because they got all the ads and stuff, so they got all these things keeping people, like, you know, the attention kind of wanders and stuff like that. So I think that might be why a lot of the Injection stuff is shorter. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Our full reviews, like our full album reviews, tend to be longer than, track premiere or anything like that. But most of our full album reviews are between 300 to 500 if it's like a smaller band or a smaller release, and then 500 to 800 for a longer. All the ones that I've written have fallen into the 500 to 800 category.
Well, you're one of their best people, so that
I don't know about that. Greg kicks my ass on that. So
Corinne's the first, either the second best or the best, just for the record. So pitching. So I want to talk about pitching a little bit because I pitch both you guys. Obviously, here and there, people pitch you. So Ian, we're going to start with you. What do you think is the right way to pitch a journalist? Let's start with you first.
Yeah, I think the longer I've done this, the more I've kind of divided my answer into two parts here. I think there's definitely the professional aspect where you need to be emailing. You should contact via email, not via social media, if at all possible. You should. You should. Man, the video throws me off here. You should be emailing over any kind of social media contact. You should be professional. It should be the general good subject line, the salutation. You should have all the info in your email. Should be a little bit of a bio. You need to put the music and the artwork. That said, you can send the perfect pitch email to me, and maybe I've just had a busy day. Maybe I just have a lot on my plate. Maybe I'm not really feeling that particular genre. So I think when you're pitching, you need to understand that the person you're pitching to is an amateur doing this as a side gig. So even if you send the perfect pitch, it kind of comes down to luck to a certain extent in terms of catching someone at the right time. To mitigate that, just know who you're pitching to. If I'm pitching to someone, I want to make sure I know them on social media. I've talked to them about music before. Maybe we had some prior communication, and that kind of opens doors that would otherwise be closed just because I have 900 emails in my inbox that I don't want to look at.
Am I in trouble because I pitch you on social media?
What?
Am I in trouble because I pitch you on social media?
No, because we have a prior standing relationship, which, and honestly, it's a good thing you do because I have so many emails that I probably want to see your email in time anyways. So There's always a balance. There's no hard and fast rules, I suppose.
Just making sure, because everybody always says this, and I'm slowly sinking down as they say this because I hit people up through their DMs, right? So,
But it's always for people that don't know us. You know
No, I
us.
know, but I feel so
So
bad. I'm sitting there going, yeah, I do this.
that's always the caveat, though, is if you don't know the person personally,
Yeah.
then don't pitch them on social media. But
Right.
I actually had something cool happen the other day where a band, they pitched me on social media, and then like 20 minutes later finished listening to one of our podcasts where I said, don't pitch me on social media. And they were like, I am so sorry. I will never do this again. And I'm
That's
like,
right.
you just got yourself some coverage because you recognized your mistake and learned from it.
That is awesome. That's a good win. Okay, yeah, because I mean, like with me, a lot of times since I know you guys, I'll just be like, hey, I got this band. Can you do this? And you guys will be like, yeah, I can check it. You know what I mean? So, but don't do that if you don't know Ian. Do that if you don't know Corinne, because they don't know who you are. For me, they'll cut me a break sometimes, unless they're grumpy, and then they might not want to do that.
Unless
But-
I haven't had coffee or eaten.
Yeah, or I hit Ian up when he's probably at his day job and he's in the middle of something and he's going to be like, "Fuck off, Curtis."
You hit me up at my day job all the time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But you're my co-host. Like, I'm allowed to do that now. So back to what we were saying about pitching. So don't DM. Use a professional email. So how long should they wait to follow you up if they don't hear a response because your inbox is just a mess or something this week?
I would say it's really tough, honestly. I would say a week is a pretty good amount of time. Just because on a personal level, that's the amount of time that like I'll be able to cycle through everything and make sure I don't miss something. But also, it's just a decent amount of time. If a day later you're like, hey, why haven't I gotten a response? That indicates to me that the band doesn't have a whole lot of respect for my time, which is ultimately kind of a game changer in terms of the way I view them as a band reaching out for a review. But then like 3 months later, I'm gonna have no clue that you emailed me at all. So it's yeah, I'd say a week. Give it a week and see. And sometimes you're just not gonna get a response, and that's because you are one fish in a massive ocean of other fishes.
I agree. So Corinne,
and this brings up a important topic that we really haven't touched on at all, and that's lead time. So making sure that you're giving enough lead time with your pitches that can allow for 1 or 2 follow-ups, once a week, for a couple of weeks. Don't pitch somebody 2 days before your track drops, because chances are, unless we know you, we're going to miss it. So make sure you have enough lead time on your pitches, because otherwise you're going to miss out on the ability to follow up. Your email's probably going to get lost and it's going to be too late.
and I've never done this to either one of you guys ever in my life. Never, not once.
No.
Ever. Not done, not once.
I have a track coming out in 6 hours. No, don't do that.
I think I've done that to Ian before. I think I've done that to Greg.
You haven't done that to me, actually.
Well, I'm nice to you right now. I just give me a month.
Sort of.
But okay, for lead time, how much time would you say would be good for you, Ian, as a general rule for like a track premiere, for example?
Track premieres, I like 2 or 3 weeks if possible. I find it really easy to write track premieres. It takes me a little bit less time than a review because obviously you don't have as much to listen to. Yep. But the formatting is always a concern, and there's inevitably an issue with the embed and all that. So I like there to be a lot of time just to kind of deal with anything that might come up. A couple of weeks is great. For a review that you've got a release coming out, at least a month is ideal, just so I can listen to it enough times. But that's a separate issue, I suppose.
Well, okay, so but you do sometimes do quicker reviews. Like I think it was 2 weeks ago you were saying to bands if you got something coming out this week.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Thanks for bringing that up. For my Friday release roundup, at the beginning of the week, I'll often say, if you've got something, email me. And that's just because it takes me 10 minutes to write those. If it hits my inbox, I jump right on it. And that's what I've kind of done in the past year to speed up and kind of maximize the amount that I can actually write about.
Fair. Okay, so there is a fast track if need be. So Corinne, what else do you want to go over for lead time?
I mean, I'm on the same page as you. Around 2 weeks, I think, is a good amount of time. I got one pitch that was, I think, 2 months in advance. And that actually ends up, it's happened a couple of times. And I think it happened to you once, Curtis, where it got lost in our drafts.
It did.
Where we just end up with so much stuff planned out that it got buried. And then it's like, oh, where's my premiere? Oh,
Yep.
well, crap. Now I got to go dig for it and find it. Just, 2 weeks, maybe 4 if you're wanting a full review. But 2 weeks is pretty good for me anyway.
From a PR end, it's hard because I know what you're saying about that with that too much lead time. But then reversely, sometimes if you wait too long, like 2 weeks, then
it depends on the outlet and who you like. I have the luxury of, so Greg handles all the big stuff.
Yeah.
And I have the luxury of being able to take on the shorter turnaround times or, things like that. So it depends on the outlet, because I know that there's some that they're booked out till June.
Yep.
On writing things. So this is also why it's good to hire a PR professional who knows all this stuff.
But I also want to point out, like I said, it depends, because sometimes if you go too far, if you go far ahead and you think you've got everything under control, it can get buried, like you said. Or if you ask too late, like even with 3 weeks, sometimes that can be too late too. So there's what else do we want to cover with pitching with Ian, Corinne?
I'm good on my end. Is there anything either of you want to ask me?
Ian, you got anything you want to ask Corinne, since you're a record label owner? You might have a question.
I guess the one thing I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit more is the kind of contacting over social media aspect. Like, to what extent would you be comfortable with people following up if, say, they've emailed previously, they've done everything correctly? Is there ever like an option to follow up on social media, or do you prefer follow up just over email?
I prefer follow up over email just because it's easier for me to keep track. I don't really like having a whole bunch of people I don't know try to message me, and there's a reason for this. They all get filtered, and I don't always check my requests folder. And I don't always get notifications when I have things in my requests folder, especially if we have no shared contacts. Those get like ultra filtered, and I don't even get a notification because they get marked as potential spam. So that's why it's not necessarily like I'm creeped out. I mean, that happens sometimes, or I'm offended. It's that it gets filtered and I don't ever see it. And then at the same time, if you followed up like 4 times via email, and then you hit me up on Twitter or something, it's like that's one of those times where it's no answer was an answer, because like you, I end up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails in my inbox. And then just to have somebody, it's like they don't respect my time, because I don't do this full time. I do a lot of my work for free. And it's just something I do because I enjoy it. And then they're trying to hit me up while I'm at my day job.
Yeah, same boat.
And you do it, bully you too, Corinne. That's the other thing.
Yeah, you do bully me into doing more stuff than I ever actually planned on doing. But here I am, and I'm running with it like a child with scissors, recklessly and with abandon.
That's right. So moving right along from the pitch fest, because I think we've covered a lot on
pitching and bitching.
Pitching and bitching, yeah. Okay, so Ian, we're going to talk about bios, and we're going to talk to Corey about bios too. But I want to, because since you now offer a service, you have Sleeping Village Writing, I think it's called. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it's called for the time being. Yeah, we'll see.
Sleeping Village Writing is a service that Ian does. He just started it. He has very reasonable prices, I must say. And he does bios. So I want to find out from you what you personally feel makes a good bio.
Sure. And for any bands that are curious, I literally just have a PDF with all this written out. So get in touch and I'll send it to you. Cool. My ideal bio is 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is your hook. It's about you. It's your brand. It's your band. It's your identity. It's what you sound like and how you're differentiated from other bands. It's a good section for fans of where you're from. The one thing I see a lot of bands do incorrectly in this section is give me 6 paragraphs about how they used to have this guy who's a drummer, but then he left, and like, no one cares. Like, I'm not even invested in your current lineup. I'm certainly not invested in your previous members. So the first paragraph should just be who you currently are, what you sound like, and what makes you different than other bands that sound like you.
Cool.
Ideal. Second paragraph, what people have said about you. And of course, if you're a new band, this is your first EP, you don't really have a great option there so much as talking about what you are striving to do, kind of your mission statement. But if you've had a few reviews here and there, you can just pull quotes. You can say people said this about the first EP, or people have said this about the live show. Giving a little bit of social proof to why other people have enjoyed the music. And then the last paragraph is about the current release that you're pitching. This brand new album goes in a new direction, or this is kind of a confirmation of their core sound. Looking forward to live shows once the pandemic is over. Whatever the next thing you're doing, that's the note you should end on. And then from there, it's just kind of a matter of like EPK stuff, the track list and all that. But for the bio itself, short, simple, and tell a story with it. Give yourself like you don't want to just be the 100th stoner doom band that hit my inbox this week. You want to have some differentiation, and that's a good place.
Cool. What about you, Corinne? What would you? Is that basically the same thing you do, or you got anything different?
So I tend to go into a little bit more detail with the ones that I write, where if they have any kind of a band history, I don't talk about old members or past bands of the current members, but a little bit of how they formed and how they developed their sound and things like that, which a lot of newer bands don't have that yet. But as they progress in their careers, I think that those kind of details are nice to add in. But definitely not getting into I don't care who your previous drummer was. I don't care who your previous bass player was. I mean, unless your, previous member was a member of Metallica, I don't care. And then when it comes to past bands that the members have been in, again, unless it's a big band, it's like, why are you cluttering up your bio with this? I just think ordering it from most important to least important and ending on what we have to look forward to is extremely important too, to give people a reason to keep checking on you.
So you guys are very, very similar in your approaches, but just a tiny little bit of a difference, which is kind of neat actually. So Ian, what do you charge for a bio? Regular price, not your getting started price?
Currently, well, I mean, it's all kind of a getting started price. Right now I'm charging 40. The plan is to raise up from there kind of gradually as I go. And 40 at the moment, that also includes kind of EPK stuff, the track list, and getting all the links, just like the random work that goes into making it look presentable.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. So, all right, next we're going into a different question. So how do you kind of pick which bands you want to feature on the site? What's the thought process, if there is a thought process?
Well, I mean, I guess my site's a little odd in that there's multiple writers, so I don't have a whole lot of agency over what they write. They all have access to our promo list, but a lot of the writers actually just go out and find stuff on their own. They get their own promo emails, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So there's no master plan in terms of like on Monday we've got to do doom metal, on Tuesday we've got to do death metal, whatever. There's no general process there. I personally write about what I'm most interested in at the moment. So if you go through the site archives, there's definitely periods where it's all one genre or all one bands from one city or something like that. The best way for a band to kind of get my attention in terms of getting a feature is by being super active in my general life related to the sites. So
you mean like your socials?
yeah, being a presence on socials, or like maybe I've seen them over the past couple of years. They always send me their new music, and I'm kind of recognizing the name in the inbox, something like that. It's quite difficult for a band to just email me out of the blue and catch my attention and get a review written the next week, without some kind of prior interaction.
Fair, but now just going into this for a second here. So how much of a difference does it make for you if the person has interacted on social media with you? Because I would imagine it makes a huge difference. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's huge, and I'm not saying interaction like, oh, we're talking every day and we're best buds or anything, but even just noticing that you do have social media has been huge for me. Like if I see a name and I'm like, oh, I saw them on Instagram at some point in my existence, that's already one of those single connections that you need in order to kind of push a sale forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I don't know. I know. Okay, I'm gonna bring Corey into this for just a brief second here.
Mhm.
So I know with Corey, like if a band kind of like is super nice to her on social media, I mean, she gets all like she wants to help them. Is that kind of like similar with you? Like like if they're very friendly with you, they're constantly interacting with you, not being a nerd about things, and then you just kind of want to write the review, or do you kind of wait for them to approach you? I guess is what I'm asking.
A lot of times I just write reviews for bands that I'm familiar with. Having done this for so many years, there's just people that I don't necessarily view as like someone in a band trying to get me to do something, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
hey, this is someone I regularly interact with, and I know they have this project, so I'm inevitably going to write about it.
Yeah.
I'd say, but yeah, I mean, like we're all human. If someone is a total jerk to me, I'm not going to be inclined to write about them. But if they're super nice and have been, then yeah, I'm more inclined to kind of do them the favor.
I actually have a funny story about this. I had
Let's
a
hear it.
band reach out to me wanting a review on social media. So obviously I was already a little irritated.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I actually really dug their music. So I was willing to do it, even though they had irritated me. And then they started bashing another band, a well-known band that they were like
No.
is doing such terrible drama or just terrible damage to the genre. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, not really. I mean, they have their purpose. Every band has that like it's a gateway band. So yeah, they're not as heavy as some, but they're bringing new fans. And they told me my taste was shit. And I'm
They
like, you
you're
literally just
it.
asked me for a review. And
Wait,
then you followed up by saying, well, your taste is kind of shit if you think that. I'm like, well, then I guess you're not getting a review.
wait,
Yeah.
wait, 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 wait. Let me just wait. So you were into the band. The
Hmm.
band basically you were into doing some coverage
Hmm.
and this, and then they turned around and told you your taste was shit.
Because I would not bash. They're a well-known band that is kind of, I guess, polarizing in the genre because they're more mainstream. And I'm like, no, they have their purpose. All these mainstream bands have their purpose. And well,
Yes.
that just means you have shit taste. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
really?
Have
Oh,
you have you had
honey, you don't even know what you just did.
have you had something like that happen to you too, Ian? Is this like a common thing?
I not that blatant, but I've
Oh, it
definitely
was freaking
not.
blatant. It was bad. And I couldn't help but just laugh my ass off.
Yeah,
That's
that's a new level. I
yeah.
have I, I have said just no or like totally ignored emails from bands that I've seen just like being jerks on social media in general, either like putting down well-known bands like in this case, or just like I don't know, saying dumb stuff and being really rude in general. Like it's 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 something I don't want to promote myself, so I'm just inherently not going to interact with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
That's like another thing that we've never really touched on when it comes to pitching. If you're one of those bands that's constantly bashing other bands, I will not cover you no matter how good your music is.
Mhm.
This is
Same.
true. Why would you?
I won't, you could be the greatest band in the world, the most innovative, the just most mind-blowingly amazing musicians, but if you're dicks, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Does that affect your opinion of a band too, Ian, if they're dicks on social media?
I mean, To be honest, I just have a hard time listening to music when I know something about the artist in
Mhm.
general. So like if something comes out about a well-known artist, I just have a hard time like personally enjoying it. So if I get an email asking for a review from a band and I've seen them like put down someone else on Twitter or whatever, I know that going into it, that will definitely color my opinion. Even yeah, if like what you're saying, it could be the most mind-blowing, innovative music in the world, but I'm always going to have the little kind of intrusive thought there.
Yeah. It just comes back to I have one rule in my life for people, and it's just don't be a dick. It is the easiest rule to not break. It requires more energy to be a dick. So just don't be a dick.
I'm going to say something controversial, potentially controversial. If you guys are ready for this, you guys ready for this?
Oh dear.
Okay, this is going to be the most
He's going
controversial.
political.
No, I'm not going. No, I'm not political. I'm not going political. Non-political, controversial. So, like with me, I think Motley Crue are a bunch of idiots. I think they're complete idiots. They got like a wife beater in there. They got like a bunch of addicts in there. Like one of them like fucking killed somebody. But I love Motley Crue's music. I like Motley Crue's music, and it doesn't color my opinion of the music at all. I mean, maybe I'm crazy with this, but like
No,
with Motley Crue, you guys are
I think it's just
criminal.
it's personal preference. And,
idiots.
you know, I mean, you may not get as emotionally invested as, you know, like me and Ian do, because I get pretty emotionally invested in a lot of the bands that I listen to,
I guess.
because they've built some sort of a community around their band. Like I'm in no way emotionally invested in Motley Crue, so I really don't care.
I grew up listening to Motley Crue. Do you know what I'm saying, Ian? Like, I don't know if you like Motley Crue, but I think they're idiots. They're complete. I would never want them near me ever.
I mean, Motley Crue is a great example, actually, because I used to listen to a lot of classic rock and kind of like just the 80s hair metal scene in general. Like that's what I grew up on as a kid. That's what I listened to. As I get older and as I find out more about these guys, I just don't listen to it as much anymore. And I don't know if I suspect there's a correlation there is what I'm saying, I guess.
Maybe, I don't know. Like with the 80s guys, I mean, I just go into them knowing like they're idiots. Like I know, you know, so I don't know. Like with me,
but at the same time, there's 80s guys that you can respect that I would rather listen to Alice Cooper.
Okay, Alice Cooper.
I was going to say, you can respect the shit out of Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
I would rather listen to him all day long.
I can't see other people other than Alice Cooper, but okay.
Dee Snider. I'd throw Dee Snider in there.
Okay. Oh yeah, Dee Snider for sure.
Dee Snider. We got 2 out of like 100.
Here's 2.
2 out of 100.
Hey, you know what? I will listen to freaking Dee Snider. I will listen to Twisted Sister and Alice Cooper all day long.
Well, you know, I also
love
Poison. Bret Michaels, I think, is nowadays. He seems to be a pretty good person, but back in the day. But anyways, just saying. I just got to defend Motley Crue. I don't know why, even though I hate them as individuals. Probably to justify the fact that I'm probably going to listen to Too Fast for Love later tonight. But what was the next question here after my controversial statement?
After your controversial Motley Crue rant.
Well, I brought up Motley Crue on the old podcast so many times. When someone brings this up, I'm always like, I'm guilty because I like Motley Crue. I will just always say I love Motley Crue, but I don't like the individuals. Anybody want to continue on that? Am I going to get crucified by both of you two later on socials?
No, I was just thinking of more people that you can probably respect from the 80s. We just had one on our podcast.
Ian Blurton?
No. Oh. Michael Sweet.
Oh, Michael Sweet. Yes. And
come on, man.
Yeah, Michael Sweet. Okay. Okay. Depends if you're into smoking cigars. I mean, he got in trouble for that. But I'm just kidding. So going back on track here. So we were talking about how you pick which bands to feature on the site. I think we're pretty much covered on that one. So I want to kind of go over Sleeping Village Records as the next thing. So you've got how many releases now? 2 or 3?
3 currently. Yeah. So basically it just kind of started out as a like compilation record of just 10 doom bands. So that's what I did. And since then I've done a couple 2 and 4 track splits. That's pretty much all that's in the works right now. I'm working on another doom compilation, but realistically I'm really good at biting off way more than I can chew, and I just kind of bounce.
Nothing I'm
between
unfamiliar with.
projects.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in this for a reason, right?
Yep.
So like, I gravitate towards whatever I happen to be interested in at the moment, and right now I'm kind of focused more on the writing side of things, but we'll see. It's 100% a hobby and a way to kind of get a little more exposure for bands that I think deserve a little bit of exposure, basically.
Now, to clarify, did you do CDs too, or was it just digital? I don't remember.
So far I've just got digital. I've got one cassette that's in the works, kind of like a little bit down the road, and I'd like to do CDs eventually for the Doom comp that I did. At this point, it's a hobby. I'm not willing to, and I'm not wanting to like invest a ton in it at this point.
Yeah.
So much as just kind of like let whatever happen.
Yeah, I understand that. So you're not currently signing bands, then I guess is my next question.
Not currently. I will be in probably a month or so for Doom bands. The next Doom compilation, the first I did was like really swampy kind of stoner Doom. The second one is sci-fi themed Doom, so all of it's going to be kind of cosmic and spacey and all that. And then after that, I've got plans for a sword and sorcery Doom comp. So if you're a band that fits the kind of space or sword and sorcery description, feel free to reach out. And I've got a master list, and I'll inevitably get back to you way later than you thought I would. That's pretty much that.
Cool. Do you have any more questions on the records aspect, Corey, before I go on to the next one?
Oh no, go for it.
Cool.
We're starting to run low on time, so
we are. Yeah. I know. I realized that right after I said that. So really quickly, I think we already went over Sleeping Village writing, so I'm going to ask you super quick. What is the best way to get Ian's attention on social media if the person is in a band without annoying him, and to possibly get future coverage? What would be the one thing a band could do?
If you have 2 years of lead time, just get to know me, comment on my stuff, interact in conversations I'm interacting in. If you don't have 2 years of lead time, the most effective strategy is to shoot me an email and then send me a message on Twitter. I will see it quickest that way. But I wholeheartedly recommend building some kind of relationship first, because otherwise you're just one single person in the constant rotation of emails that I get.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Corinne, do you have any final questions for Ian before we wrap up?
No, I am good on my end. I think we've given people a lot to digest, as we always do.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you, Ian, for coming on. We will have you back on at some point in the future. I'll
definitely.
Probably have you back on in a couple months. But I really appreciate what you do. And then also follow Ian on social media. Your handle is @Sleeping Village Reviews, right?
Twitter is Village Reviews. Instagram is Sleeping Village Reviews. Facebook is Sleeping Village Reviews, and the site is Sleeping Village Reviews.
Cool. Go check it out. He does really great reviews. He always does good premieres. He's one of the best in the business for actually taking the time to actually do a thoughtful and detailed write up about a band. A lot of sites don't do that. They'll just copy and paste the press release. So go take a look at his site, go take a look at his Instagram, and party on, Corey.
Party on, Curtis. Party on, Eden.
Yeah.